This program is being brought to you by Foodland, a company dedicated to the support of Pitt Athletics. Foodland, we know what you like. Also by Coke and Cameron Coke. It's the real thing. Cameron Coke is proud to recognize Pitt football's 100 years of excellence. By Breyer's Ice Cream, the all-natural ice cream. And by Heinz, also celebrating their 100th birthday. Heinz salutes Pitt's football centennial.
For 100 years, the University of Pittsburgh has forged a tradition of gridiron excellence. A tradition which has, for generations, inspired men to great accomplishment. Coaches and players whose images fill the Hall of Fame and whose legends can be found along the paths of glory.
Mine's all over the left side, still on his feet at the 50, the 45, he's broken away, he's going to go all the way.
He's looking, he is throwing, it is complete, right, touchdown.
It's touchdown, on goal. That is complete. Oh, yeah. Sensational catch in this field out in. Touchdown.
And it will be caught by Lionel Stretch.
It is intercepted by number 50, Monty Schottenheimer. He does.
Oh, intercepted. I don't believe it. It's intercepted. Here comes the man with the
He's got it. I'm telling you, when he got to the right height mark, he put headgear, pointed the flag, and he said, "You stop me."
He's running. He is cutting. He is into the end zone for the touchdown.
Burrito goes deep.
The University of Pittsburgh's Cathedral of Learning rises from the Oakland campus to stand as an inspiration to all. For more than 200 years, this school has constructed a legacy of higher education. Just as this marvelous structure symbolizes Pitt's commitment to academic excellence, the Panther represents the mighty spirit of this university's nationally recognized football program. Like the fierce cat, this program has left its mark on American college football with 9 national championships. It is a program whose heritage can be traced back to young Bert Smyers, who in 1890 brought a new game to Pittsburgh.
They didn't know what a football was here. And I don't know how they got the first football, but Father was the brains, and he did the thinking, and he was a true quarterback.
Football at Western University of Pennsylvania during the turn of the century was played by only the most rugged of men. By 1904, the school had its first undefeated team. Its captain, Joe Thompson, would go on to coach the legendary Pitt squad of 1910, which would go undefeated, untied, and unscored upon. Hall of Fame end Hugh Wagner and fullback Tex Richards led the team that many call the very best of its era. In 1915, Pitt football moved to national prominence when it hired Glenn Scobie Warner as head coach. Pop Warner was a football genius whose innovations included both the single and the double wing running attacks. In his first 4 years at Pitt, Pop's teams would lose only 1 game, running up a 29-1 record. 3 of those years, the Panthers were hailed as national champions. The championship team of 1916 was called the greatest 11 in the world. Players Bob Peck, Doc Carlson and George McLaren were among the 8 first-team All-Americans on the team which Warner would call his very best.
You had such great respect for Pop Warner that you wanted to give him the best you had on every play, and that's a great asset. He was warm, affectionate, but aloof to the extent that you respected him for what he knew. We played for Pop because we held him in such high respect.
Many call the mercurial Tommy Davies one of the very best to ever play at Pitt. The Hall of Fame halfback helped lead Warner's 1918 team to a national championship. In his 9 years at Pitt, Warner never had a losing season, firmly establishing this university as a national football power.
When I think of Pitt football, I think of tradition. I think of the great names that played here. Goldberg, Ditka, Marino, Romano, Green, and myself. We were all part of that Pitt tradition. And every time I come back into Pitt Stadium, I get goosebumps as if it was game day again at Pitt.
You run out and the college crowd is extremely exciting. I mean, it's the big thing, and you can smell football in the air. I mean, in the fall up north.
Come flying out of that tunnel, people, cheering, and the cheerleaders, and make the little gauntlet to run through, and you hear "Hail to Pitt," and that kind of like fires you up.
Hail to Pitt, every loyal son. Hail to Pitt till the victory's won. I tell you what, they're loyal sons at Pitt. That's one of the all-time great facts on Allegany-Knack and Allegany-Knack.
Hail to Pitt, hail to Pitt, every loyal son. If Pop Warner was the patriarch of football at Pitt, then surely its most loyal son was John Bain Sutherland, better known as Jock. Born in Scotland, Jock Sutherland came to America at the age of 16. A strapping, raw-boned youth, his determination to educate himself brought him to the University of Pittsburgh. There he learned of an American game called football.
Jock Sutherland never played football until he entered Pitt in the fall of 1914. He was a soccer player. He came to Pitt, started the first game at right guard, and never missed a game in 4 years.
Jock earned All-American recognition, and in 1917 he graduated from Pitt School of Dentistry. However, Dr. Sutherland chose instead to follow his newfound love, football. After 5 years as head coach at Lafayette, Sutherland, an austere, commanding figure, was chosen in 1924 to succeed Pop Warner as head coach.
It's a double reverse left robe from a double wing-back formation.
Dr. Sutherland was by no means a buddy-buddy guy. Maybe at the time there was more fear. Dr. Sutherland possibly was not one who could create those feelings of love and affection, but he certainly could create the feelings of tremendous respect and dedication and devotion and pride that his players had in being able to play for him.
That's the play, fellas. Now let's go on the field and try. Come on, let's go. Go, man.
After we had played Duquesne and got beat 7-0, Jock didn't even come to practice. But we had Notre Dame coming up the following Saturday. He didn't even come to practice. The assistant coaches carried the ball. He didn't say a word in the dressing room. He disciplined us. We went out and beat the pants off Notre Dame. He knew what he was doing.
You come out of that huddle, come out of unity and step. And when you get down on that line, be set to charge.
Sutherland's hallmark was his devotion to the game's fundamentals, blocking and tackling. His teams played power football, the backs running with fury behind devastating blocking. blasting out yardage in the single wing. The unstoppable attack became known as the Sutherland Scythe. The secret to its success was teamwork.
We were highly trained. We were in great physical condition. We were like a symphony orchestra. You didn't think, all you were concerned about was playing your part. I knew that if I got my man every time I was supposed to get him, and everybody else did the same, we were going to win that ball game.
Inside a brand new Pitt Stadium, Sutherland built a football dynasty. Galloping Gibby Welch starred in the early years of Sutherland's brilliant reign at Pitt. What annoyed Sutherland's coaching rivals was that they knew what his teams would do and when, and still they could not stop the Panthers. Sutherland was a genius of defensive football. His Pittsburgh team shut out their opponents 79 times. In his 15 years as head coach, Sutherland's teams would win an incredible 112 games and lose only 20. In one remarkable 9-year period, the Panthers would win 5 national championships.
Winning the game was the way to do it, the only way to do it. We were sort of machine-like. We did our job as we were trained to do our job, and that was it. In 1934, we lost 1 game. In 1935, we had a bad year. We lost 1 game and tied Fordham. In 1936, we lost to Duquesne and tied Fordham. 1937, we didn't lose a game. Now, you know, you can't get too excited about winning if you never lose.
Pitt ruled college football in the 30s. Jock Sutherland was attracting the best of the sturdy youth that the small towns of western Pennsylvania could offer. The proud sons of coal miners and steel workers provided the raw talent that Sutherland would mill into gridiron All-Americans. However, no player left a bigger mark on this decade of excellence than the son of a theater owner from West Virginia, running back Marshall Goldberg.
He was there about 2 or 3 days before I realized he was a football player. I thought he was a manager. He was such a small person.
Small in size, but big in heart, Marshall Goldberg raced through opponents with a daring, reckless abandon that twice earned him All-American honors.
Here, Marshall Goldberg, number 42, a fighting, charging football demon, celebrates his 18th birthday by ripping open the heart of the Notre Dame Lion. He's All-American timber, say most of the Monday morning quarterback.
In 1936, Goldberg led Pitt all the way to the Rose Bowl and a chance to play undefeated Washington for the national championship. It was Sutherland's 4th trip to the Rose Bowl, and he had yet to win. He was determined this time to leave with a victory. Led by Goldberg and backfield mates Bobby LaRue and Frank Patrick, Pitt crushed the Huskies 21-0. With the game's MVP, Bill Daddio, returning an interception 71 yards to break the game wide open.
By Pittsburgh, and what I mean, he's off to the races. Another touchdown for Pittsburgh.
The victory once again convinced the nation's sports writers to crown Pitt as the top team in the country. In 1937, Pitt again would dominate college football, playing 10 games without a defeat. But as the season came to a close, the big story was Pitt's surprising refusal of another Rose Bowl invitation. Yet, despite turning down the bowl bid, the Panthers still were voted as unanimous national champions. Marshall Goldberg's 698 yards led all Pitt runners in 1937. But in 1938, Dr. Sutherland had different plans for his star halfback.
In 1937, Marshall Goldberg was a unanimous choice for tailback All-American or left halfback All-American. He also had an outstanding sophomore running back, Dick Cassiano. And Dr. Sutherland evidently wanted to have Cassiano in the backfield the same time that Goldberg was there. So Goldberg was moved to fullback. where Goldberg could still carry the ball and they could take full advantage of his blocking abilities to make room for Dick Cassiano. And that then created the so-called dream backfield.
Pitt's dream backfield caused nightmares for opponents. Marshall Goldberg, Dick Cassiano, Curly Stebbins, and John Chicurnio were by far the best backfield in the land. Fordham coach Jim Crowley, one of the legendary Four Horsemen of Notre Dame, claimed Pitt's green backfield surpassed even the famous Irish foursome. They had power, quickness, and most of all, they had speed.
Well, the dream backfield had one great skill, and that was speed. We were good blockers, fast runners. We worked very well together.
So well that they would accomplish what no other Pitt team had done for 3 years. They scored against Fordham. Crowley's Fordham teams in the mid-30s were national powerhouses, featuring the famed 7 blocks of granite. Incredibly, for 3 consecutive seasons in front of sellout crowds at New York's Polo Grounds, neither Pitt nor Fordham could score a single point. 3 straight times, the score read 0-0. In 1937, it appeared Pitt had broken the scoreless string, but Marshall Goldberg's apparent touchdown run was called back for a holding penalty. And so it was on October 29th, 1938. Fordham and Pitt would duel again, this time at Pitt Stadium, before a crowd of 70,000. On this day, the unthinkable happened. Both teams scored. The Panthers drew first blood with a first quarter field goal, but they trailed 7-3 in the fourth quarter before the dream backfield ignited for 3 touchdowns to give Sutherland one of his most memorable victories. Following the Fordham game, Pitt was ranked #1 in the country, but the end of an era was near. Sutherland had been engaged in a dispute with Chancellor John Bowman and Athletic Director Don Harrison over the direction of the program. Following the 1938 season, when Bowman stripped the team of scholarships and began a program of de-emphasis, Sutherland resigned.
There was almost a strike among the players. We felt a great loss. Not that Charlie Bowser coming in didn't do a fairly good job, but he still was not the man, Jock Sutherland.
The dramatic departure of Dr. Sutherland signaled a change in Pitt's football fortunes, the end of a golden era. He had always seemed larger than life, an awe-inspiring coach and man. When he died unexpectedly of a brain tumor in 1948, the city of Pittsburgh and the football world mourned the loss of one of the truly great figures in sports. On the day following his death, sports writer Grantland Rice wrote a poem to his friend Jock Sutherland. There's a fog now over Scotland and a mist on Pittsburgh's field. There's no valiant hand to flash the sword or hold the guiding shield. There's a big, braw fellow missing from the golden land of fame. For Jock Sutherland has left us, and the game is not the same.
This time to give off the left side with a hole. That's Elliott Watkins. 30, 25, 20, 15, 10. There goes Watkins for a quick touchdown.
Pitt, Penn State. Like the Hatfields and the McCoys, the rivalry between these two schools is legendary.
There's always a feeling that you got to beat Penn State or your season's not complete, no matter what your record is going into that game, and I think they feel the same way. You know.
Sutherland never lost to Penn State as a coach or a player. Warner shut out the Nittany Lions 5 times. Over the years, this intrastate rivalry has pitted neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother.
Play against guys in high school. Some come with you to Pitt, some go to Penn State. And next thing you know, you got some pretty good individual guys who know one another very well that are playing against each other now. And they're going to see each other in the summertime, and they want to make sure that they go back and they're going to have the bragging rights.
Throughout the decades, the series has provided more than its share of fantastic finishes.
Back is Kisner, throwing to the near sideline. It's intercepted. Here comes a man with a football. He's got nothing but sideline. Billy Owens. He's got the ball held with one hand in the air as he takes it all the way for the Panther touchdown. Pitt Stadium has gone berserk.
The rugged hills of western Pennsylvania are laced with their own paths of glory. For generations, young boys raised in small blue-collar towns grew up with dreams of becoming college football stars at the University of Pittsburgh. For many, those dreams came true.
I remember going to Pitt Stadium when I was about 6, 7 years old and watched my brother play Carnegie Tech and Pitt game. And that was a great thrill. I still remember it. My mother and dad took me to that game, and I said, "Boy, that's for me, man. That's what I want to do. I want to be here playing football one of these days."
While at Pitt in the early 50s, he became the prototype of the modern-day linebacker, a fiercely intense competitor. Joe Schmidt played the game at the boiling point, covering the field with a punishing purpose.
Joe just epitomizes everything, in my opinion, as to what a football player should represent. In 1952, he was a All-American at the University of Pittsburgh as a linebacker, and then he was drafted 7th by the Detroit Lions, and of course, as we know, was inducted a few years ago into the Pro Football Hall of Fame at Kent.
Schmidt, along with stellar running backs Jimmy Joe Robinson and Edgar Special Delivery Jones, were among the great Pitt players of the 40s and early 50s. In 1955, the university reached back into its glory days and named former quarterback John Michelowson as its new head coach. Michelowson had captained the 1937 national championship team under Sutherland and was a coaching apprentice under the old master in the NFL. His return to Pitt restored stability to the head coaching position and brought back some of Sutherland's distinctive traits: restraint, sincerity, and a strong football mind.
Really loved the guy. He was kind of a guy that some people might have said he was aloof or standoffish, but he knew his football. You knew that. I remember we played West Point, and they came in with the famous lonesome men the first time they split in, and he never came in the huddle. And the only blemish they had on their record, we tied them. We had a special defense put in for them.
When you play football for John Michelowson, you know how to block and tackle. We were a good, strong running football team, played good defense, but he was very good at teaching fundamentals.
Fundamental football took Michelowson's teams to bowl games in his first 2 years. His teams were built around the skilled two-way players of the day: quarterback Corny Salvatierra, running back Corky Cost, and an All-American end, number 87, Joe Walton. Walton was born with the Pitt spirit running in his blood. His father, Frank Tiger Walton, was a rugged guard on Pitt's championship teams in the early 30s, and it took little time to see that this bloodline was pure thoroughbred. In 1955, Walton led the nation in touchdown receptions on a team that rarely threw. The man they called too slow and too small went on to become a giant in the NFL. In the late 50s, a bigger, fiercer strain of cat appeared in a Panther uniform. A player so tough that in the Steel City they chose to call him Iron Mike.
Mike Ditka, when you practiced against him, that he just wanted to rip your head off. And I can remember we were playing Boston College. It was Boston College, and we had just got the lead. And back in those days, that's your special teams. You played special teams. You know, we had to play both ways. And we were going to get ready to kick off. And Mike was so fired up that he was going down the line, and he was just, you know. And the guy next to me, he hit him so doggone hard, and the helmet almost knocked his helmet off. When he came up to me, I stepped back, and he just missed. And I said, if he'd have hit me, I don't think I'd have been able to run down the field. When you would see him in the huddle or getting ready to come out, I mean, he was ready. He was just like a prize fighter in the ring. Just couldn't wait for that bell to ring to go back out there.
Mike Ditka was an intense, tenacious competitor. By far the toughest end to tackle in the country. But at Pitt, it was also his defensive play that helped earn him All-American recognition.
I was really, probably a little better defensive player than I was an offensive player. The attitude of a defensive player is a little more aggressive, and that helped me on offense, too. I think that's the way you approach blocking, that's the way you approach catching the ball and running over people and everything else. Catching the ball means very little if you don't enjoy running with it, and I think it becomes a competitive one-on-one thing that you really don't want one person to bring you down.
Ditka was a three-sport star at Pitt, also lettering in baseball and basketball, and went on to have a Hall of Fame playing career in the NFL. Oddly enough, his high school coach had expected it to turn out rather differently.
I wanted to be a dentist. That seemed to be the vogue thing to do at those days. Coach Ashman always wanted me to go to Pitt, and he wanted me to be a dentist. And 1 out of 2 isn't bad.
The 1963 season could be called both the best of times and the worst of times for the Panthers. Running back Paul Martha, number 10, outran defenders all year long. Martha, along with quarterback Fred Nazurek and fullback Rick Leeson, fueled a formidable offense, which helped Pitt run up a 9-1 record, Coach Michaeloson's best mark ever. Pitt ended the season ranked number 3 in the country, but incredibly wound up without a bowl invitation. Paul Martha remembers the tragedy that shook Pitt's triumphant season.
People have to remember the 1963 team, that was the year that the president was assassinated, that the latter part of the season was moved back. Our Penn State game was changed. So the end of the season was kind of ending a season, our senior year, on a down note.
The rest of the 60s turned sour for the Panthers. 2 years after his best season, Michaeloson was fired. 2 other coaches, Dave Hart and Carl DePasqua, came and went, until in 1972, a 1-10 record prompted University Chancellor Wesley Posvar to act.
We had a meeting with our key alumni and staff, looked at all the deficiencies in the program, and we decided that it wasn't a matter of money, it was a matter of people.
Let's get to show them what a football team we got now. Let's put them away. You won't
Enter new head coach Johnny Majors.
Another play. You got to do it as a team.
Majors came along at just the right time. He had the qualities we wanted. He was a strong leader. He was an attractive personality. And that's something that we needed in our program, was the ability to win and take it well, and the ability to lose. And I remember him saying this, to learn from each loss and turn it into a win the next time.
Fellas, I think we've got to put together a football team here at Pitt that will be determined not to learn to lose. And as long as we play with pride and play with enthusiasm and with intensity, we will learn to win.
Majors injected himself into the ailing Pitt program with the energy and enthusiasm that is born of a new challenge. His resounding work ethic and commitment to excellence captured the imagination of this rebuilding city.
It was fun. From 6 o'clock in the morning till midnight at night for the first 2 or 3 months, I didn't have a dull moment or not a minute on my own. I was making speeches, recruiting, going all the way across the country recruiting, and talking to everybody I could in Pittsburgh to find out what it would take to win at Pitt. I'd get in a taxi cab, and I'd just ask a taxi, "Are you thinking win at Pitt?" And I'd drove downtown. If I was down in the meeting, if I stopped on the corner and saw the policeman, "What do you think about Pitt? Are you thinking win at Pitt?" I was wanting ideas. Everybody, "Yes, sir, coach, you get them, so we're behind you all the way."
I think if Johnny brought anything to this program, he brought organization and enthusiasm. I'll never forget, he came, quickly started a winter conditioning workout schedule that was something that none of us were prepared to undertake, and many of the existing players dropped out at that point in time.
We worked them so hard in spring practice and the off season. We ran them twice a day after practicing 2 a day. I've never worked a team. I worked some out-of-state teams hard, and the early Tennessee teams. I never had a team worked any harder than that. And those who stayed became champions. We had a saying: those who stay will play, and those who stay will be champions.
From a 1-10 record in 1972 to a Fiesta Bowl appearance in 1973, the sleeker, faster Panthers were poised for glory. Johnny Majors would never forget the night he first saw a young high school tailback from Aliquippa who would carry this team from darkness to daylight.
Then I saw him running the big 33 game. I'm sitting in the press, but he runs to his right and he gets trapped. He traverses his field, he comes back and has to give ground back to outrun 3 or 4 people, and I saw him accelerate and use a burst of speed that I'd never seen in my life. That night, I'll never forget it. I went to stop the guys for a little while and went to my motel room and opened the door and closed the door, and like a kid, I said, "Hooray, we got a tailback."
Number 33, Tony Dorsett, was more than just another tailback. He would shatter 15 NCAA rushing and scoring records. Pitt had plucked a jewel from a struggling steel mill town. Tony Dorsett would capture the hearts of a nation on his way to college football's most prestigious award, the Heisman Trophy.
The Heisman Trophy is symbolic of an individual being the most outstanding collegiate player in that particular year. So as an athlete, as a competitor, you know, my thing is always to strive to be the best. Running is instinct. You know, you can teach guys how to block, how to tackle, catch. You can't teach a guy how to run. I mean, it's just an instinctive thing. It's something, a trait that it's a God-given talent, and I've been blessed with that talent.
Tony Dorsett was a running back for the ages. Penn State coach Joe Paterno may have put it best. How many ways can you say the word great? On October 23rd, 1976, on this run, Tony Dorsett soared into college football history. This swift Golden Panther had just become college football's all-time leading rusher, firmly establishing himself as the greatest running back in the history of the game.
When I came to Pitt in '73, I discovered there are things that happen to you as an athlete that you can apply to yourself later in life. About the peaks and valleys, about the goals, about the trials and tribulations, about the blood, sweat, and tears, the sacrifices. Coming up with methods on how to accomplish those goals. And in 1976, we set a goal, but I never dreamed it would happen the way it happened.
From Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend, Indiana, the opening game of 1976 for the Pittsburgh Panthers and the Fighting Irish of...
Before a national television audience, Tony Dorsett would showcase his explosive talents in an unforgettable performance.
Notre Dame wins the toss and receives. We kick to them with the wind behind their back. They take the ball 80 yards on a drive and score. The crowd roars. The first play of scrimmage, our own 20, we called 10 play, counter dive to Dorsett. We had perfect blocking. Everybody put their head on the right man. Stalemated their blocking. Dorsett hits the line of scrimmage, breaks it, and the linebacker hits him. He breaks the tackle of the linebacker, and he squirts outside, and the backside blockers pick him up. He cuts back, and the people block for him, and Gordon Jones downfield, the receiver, we're cutting and slicing and everything. He's cutting back. About 60 yards later, they finally tackle him. The crowd becomes like a morgue. My wife said it's the most dramatic play that she's ever seen in football.
The first play of the ball game goes to Tony Dorsett, and he flicks it over the right side, and he makes it. How do you do? I don't believe it, but I saw it.
The Panthers went on to crush the Irish 31-10 in a magnificent display of total team football. In his 4 years, Majors had assembled one of the best teams in the history of the game. Quarterbacks Robert Haygood, number 10, and number 12, Matt Cavanaugh, were both throwing and running threats. Fullback Elliott Walker kept defenses guessing with some spectacular running of his own, while Gordon Jones provided Pitt with all-star receiving. All-Americans Randy Holloway, number 70, and Al Romano, number 91, anchored the powerful Pitt defense.
We just felt that we could beat anybody. We felt as each week went on that we were better and better and better, and that we couldn't be beaten, and we couldn't be beat, and we won't be beat. And that just, that feeling perpetuated the whole team, and we never once doubted that we could win a game.
The Panthers tore through their 1976 schedule, bringing a 10-0 record into the final game of the year. Only arch-rival Penn State stood in the way of a perfect season. With the Sugar Bowl bid in their pocket and the number 1 ranking on the line, the pressure to win this one was enormous. The first half was a standoff. Penn State had frustrated the Panthers, forcing a 7-7 halftime tie.
We made one strategical change in that game that I remember when we moved Tony to fullback. And for only 1 or 2 plays, but the first time we did it, I think we handed the ball off to him straight up the middle. We got a nice block out of our center and guards, and he broke one.
Pitt would score 3 times in the second half, while at the same time shutting Penn State out. Their appointment with destiny was right on schedule. The Sugar Bowl, New Orleans, Louisiana. Georgia versus Pitt for the national championship. For the Panthers, the first priority was defense. Pitt crushed Georgia's heralded ground game, forcing 6 turnovers, including 4 interceptions. MVP Matt Cavanaugh's 38-yard pass to Elliott Walker set up the game's first score.
We ran an option, and at this point, 11, 12 games into the season, people decided that they shouldn't let Tony carry the ball. So I came down the line expecting to pitch it. The support man went after Tony, and I tucked the ball in and kind of jogged in from 9 yards out for a score. And it yielded the Sports Illustrated cover because I got into the end zone and turned around and in jubilation, and Willie Taylor and Tony both rushed in, and I got to jump up in their arms, and someone took a picture.
It was a picture-perfect game in every respect. Kavanaugh shredded the Bulldog defense for nearly 200 yards passing, while Dorsett romped for a Sugar Bowl record 202 yards. In the end, it was a devastating 27-3 triumph, and the Pitt Panthers were the nation's unanimous choice as 1976 collegiate football champions.
The fun was in the doing. A lot of tough times, a lot of problems to solve, but we kept on keeping on. Winning 6 to 7 to 8 and winning 12 in a row was no bigger thrill could a man, or I think a player, ever have. And being involved with that from the ground floor to the culmination of the final tick of the clock against Georgia and New Orleans, Louisiana.
When the mist finally cleared from that championship season, Johnny Majors was gone, returning to his alma mater, Tennessee. In his place was his former assistant, Jackie Sherrill. In his 5 seasons as head coach, Sherrill's teams won 50 games, lost only 9, and tied 1. Pitt attracted an unprecedented array of football talent that would dominate Eastern football into the 80s.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
For Sherrill, the key to success was held by the defense.
It was a true defensive team. It was a total unit, and we had common. We knew that there was not a defensive tackle faster than Meisner. We knew that there was nobody better technique-wise than Neal. We knew that Jerry Bolarski there was not a better nose guard, and when you looked outside, you had Green and Jackson, and both of them have wrote their own tickets to the NFL Hall of Fame.
On any other team, number 87 Ricky Jackson would have been top dog, but at Pitt, Jackson was playing with the baddest cat in college football, number 99, Hugh Green. Green was unquestionably the greatest defensive player in the game. Never before had size, strength, and speed been put together in such a punishing package.
He had an air about him that, when you were playing next to him, that, don't worry about anything going to the left, Hughes over there. And the thing is, you were always trying to get there before you got there, and most of the time you didn't get there.
Watching him from the sidelines, he would be on one end of the field, and they would maybe sweep it in the other direction to the wide side of the field. And Green would come running across the field, and all of a sudden this guy disappears in a big roll of dust, and up comes Green, and his eyes up like this, and blood's practically dripping out, and he's hovering over the guy.
In 1980, Green won the Lombardi Award and finished second in the Heisman balloting. He was the heart and soul of a Panther defensive unit that would go down as the best of a generation.
Front 5 defensive players went off and started as a rookie in the NFL. There's no other team in college football, period, UCLA or Notre Dame or any of them can say that. There's 7 Pro Bowlers off of that team at that time. So as far as sheer talent and the teams and players that played together, they were really a great football team.
As a highly recruited high school quarterback, Dan Marino could have played anywhere. But for this neighborhood hero from Oakland, his path of glory began right at home.
I could walk to Pitt Stadium. I could walk from my high school to Pitt Stadium. There's not many kids, growing up could say that they lived in the same area of the university and was able to become the starting quarterback for that university and play high school in the same neighborhood, play college football in the same neighborhood. So it was something special, and I thought that the only place for me to play was Pitt.
In his 4 years, Marino grew from a 17-year-old freshman whose first pass was intercepted to an All-American whose quick release and ballistic arm helped make him the most productive passer in Pittsburgh history. But Marino possessed more than just physical ability. He approached the game with a cool confidence that would help rally his team in tight games.
Danny was kind of a cocky guy, and that kind of rubbed off on you as an offensive player when you could look into the quarterback's eyes and you could see the confidence in that cocky type of fashion, and you know that, hey, we're going to get it done no matter what it takes.
You have to have a lot of confidence to play that position. You can't go out and throw 2 or 3 interceptions and think that you're not going to play anymore. And then you know that's why Coach Sherrill had so much faith in Dan. When he would throw an interception, he wouldn't say anything to him because the next pass might be a touchdown. And that's the confidence that Dan has. You know, he never let anything get him down, and we were always in the game till the last minute, just like in the Sugar Bowl.
The 1982 Sugar Bowl pitted the 10-1 Panthers against the highly ranked Georgia Bulldogs. With just seconds remaining in the game, Pitt trailed by 3. It was 4th down, and Jackie Sherrill was thinking field goal.
Called timeout to talk about it, called Danny over, and Danny sat there and looked me in the eye, giving him what my thoughts were, and he said, "Coach, I'm not here to tie the ball game. We didn't come here to tie the ball game." I knew right then that he would get it done.
It is 4th down for Pitt.
The crazy thing about it was it was 4th and 5, and they tried to blitz. And they left one-on-one coverage with John Brown going straight down the middle of the field, and that was kind of a mistake.
4th and 4.5. Could be the last play for him. Marino goes deep. Brown, touchdown! John Brown makes a great catch with 35 seconds to play.
The dramatic Sugar Bowl victory was the climax of 3 years of Pitt football supremacy. 3 consecutive 11-1 seasons, 3 triumphant bowl appearances, and an overall record of 33-3 elevated Pitt firmly into the elite of college football. Quite simply, these Pitt teams had it all. A destructive defense, a powerful rushing attack, a dashing quarterback, and an all-pro offensive line.
It's amazing. I used to walk on the field sometimes and play a whole football game and never hit the ground.
Our offensive line, we had a lot of confidence because we were playing well. We were dominating a lot of teams. We had myself and Rob Fade, who played with the Bears, and Paul Dunn, and Russ Grimm, and Emil Bors, and Mark May. And those were all guys that played in the NFL.
As far as the NFL's Atlanta Falcons were concerned, Pitt's Bill Fralick was the best college lineman of the decade.
Fralick was the best football player I've ever seen come out of high school. I mean, we used to sit back in our offensive line meetings and look at the film that we were watching of Fralick, who was starting at the time. And, you know, a lot of times I would play next to Fralick, and it was just amazing at what that guy could do.
Fralick was the anchor on offense, while Bill Moss, number 71, and number 56, Chris Dolman, led the way on defense for new head coach Foge Fazio. These Pitt teams of the 80s provided the NFL with a motherlode of impact talent. Green, Jackson, Fralick, Covert, May, Grimm, Moss, Dolman, and Stepnoski enhanced a long, proud tradition of outstanding linemen. Pitt had 14 first-round NFL draft picks from 1981 through 1989, while at the same time, the NFL's all-pro roster in each of those years included at least one former Pitt player. The list of Panthers in the NFL goes on and on. From the Super Bowl to the Pro Bowl, the University of Pittsburgh has left an impressive mark in the NFL. In 1989, Pitt concluded its first 100 years of football with a dramatic come-from-behind victory over Texas A&M in the John Hancock Bowl. The win was the very first as a head coach for Paul Hackett, the man Pitt has chosen to lead the Panthers into a brand new century of excellence.
I think the great thing about tradition and heritage is that people come back. People have the University of Pittsburgh as their university for life. I think we need to gather around the players who have played here before to make the young players, the players who are here and the players we want to recruit here, understand that it is a family sort of commitment to this university. And what Pitt is about something special. And we intend to keep that tradition up and perhaps to take it to new heights.
Echoes of heroic young men and their coaches. 100 years of Pitt football, a wondrous journey through paths of glory.
This program is being brought to you by Foodland, a company dedicated to the support of Pitt athletics. Foodland, we know what you like. Also by Coke and Cameron Coke. It's the real thing. Cameron Coke is proud to recognize Pitt football's 100 years of excellence. By Breyer's Ice Cream, the all-natural ice cream. And by Heinz, Also celebrating their 100th birthday, Heinz salutes Pitt's football centennial.